Hello there, survivors! Welcome back to another tutorial for ARK Survival Ascended, and today we're building this Japanese castle. I did this build for my Herbivore Island base. This is a video that I did a little while back, and in this video I'm going to show you exactly how to build your own Japanese castle in ARK. Of course, you can build this wherever you want. You will need a little bit of space because it's quite a big building with a big interior that will fit everything that you need. Crafting wise, storage wise, you can definitely use this as your main base. You even have a second floor for your bedroom or whatever you want to place down there. And on the top, there is even a little aviary where you can easily keep your flyers. Of course, as always, at the end of the tutorial, I will show you a little walkthrough of the building so you can see everything and how I decorated the place. And if you enjoyed this video, of course, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss out on all the other builds. I've done a couple of other Japanese-inspired builds so you can extend your base and make it all fit together. And if you like what you see, consider becoming a member because that's the best way to support my channel. And without much further ado, let's get into the tutorial. Of course, we're going to start out by placing down the foundations. You need a reasonable amount of space here, and the main foundation is 8 by 11, so 11 long and 8 wide, and then in the middle of those 11 we have two little extensions of 2 by 3 on both sides of the building. Those are going to be your entrances and exits, I guess, for your garden or the rest of your base in general. Okay, and then it's time to get started with the walls, and for now we're going to start with where the doorways are going to be. I'm going to flip all the wood because I like that more. Gonna have one doorway there, one right here, and one right there on this side. And everything that we do on this side will flip to the other side as well. Then we want to take out this doorway. In my case, it's going to be windows, and we'll place them next to this door too high. And we'll place them here as well too high on both sides of the door. And of course, we'll do the same on this side as well. And we'll do actually the same on the ends of the wall as well. As well as we'll go to the middle of this wall and add 2 more. All too high. We're going to, of course, raise this wall later as well. But for now, that's all you need to do. And of course, we'll do the same on the other side as well. So 2 high, 2 in the middle, and 1 more on the side as well. And we'll flip that to the other side of the building again. Okay, then we should have something like this, quite chaotic, and we're going to fill in the rest with some normal walls so that we have a whole build of this first layer completed, well, almost completed walls wise. So we're just going to fill this all in, and on the side as well. Obviously, these on the side, the walls are going to be much higher in the end, but we'll get there when we get there. For now, we're just going to fill it in all like this to make sure that it all looks good and nice. And we'll do the same on this side, and of course flip it to the other side of the building as well. Okay, then we'll start on the front here and add in the shape for the roof. So we'll start with some quarter walls like so, then flip to the other variation and place them on top of there, and then attach our sloped roof to it as well. And then we'll fill in the top bit and fill the last bit of the wall in with a normal wall. So you should have a shape like this, a little bit overlapping to the side of the building. And then we want to take some quarter ceilings and fill in these bits right here so that we don't have any open spaces when we place down our roof. Now, before we can get started on the roof and the shape of the roof, we're going to fill in the shape of this roof as well. This is going to be a big one. So, of course, we're going to have some sloped walls on the side. And we're going to have to slowly raise this as well so that we can make our way up there. So we'll fill it in like this. Then we'll take out the doorways again to fill in this last little bit so that we get a nice gradual slope for the roof. As you can see, it's already quite big, this first layer. Let's make sure that we place this the right way around. You can see it's quite a big shape, but that will mean that we'll have plenty of room on the inside to actually use this as a proper base. And of course, now that we've got this shape, we'll do the same on the other side as well. Okay, and now as little guides, we're going to place some quarter ceilings in the corners of this build. We can remove those later on, but right now we just need them for some extra snap points that we'll be using for our roofs. Alright, then we'll take out our stone roof and we'll place one right here. So on the corner of the ceiling we just placed. And this means we have a nice little overlap on the front. We can just continue this all the way to the top of the shape that we've created. And we're going to do the same thing right here on the front of the build. So we'll just connect it up like so. Okay, and then we can connect this part of the roof like so. And this should line up very nicely with the other side. And then we'll take out a corner piece like this. And we'll be able to connect this up nicely. Here we'll have a little overlap. So unfortunately that won't be able on official, which still is a shame. But we'll have a nice connection of our roof like so. And then the second layer we can just continue like normal. And then of course we can fill this in again and do the same thing on the other side as well with the same corner and making it connect up to this side. And here of course we'll take out the two middle ones because we want to connect it up nicely from the inside as well, even though in the end we won't see this part, but we'll make a nice little corner here and then we can connect it up again with this front bit. And then we basically have this front almost done, but now we're going to slowly also create a nice little curve in the roof. And of course, we'll fill in this part as well so that it is all the way the same on both sides. Now I'm going to switch to the stone ramp, and this is also actually why I chose stone instead of wood, because the texture stays the same, only the slope changes, whereas with wood you have different textures of course for a ramp as a roof, so it doesn't really match up as nicely. Okay, and what we want to do right here is basically add another layer of the roof, but now it's a ramp, so we have the little slope going on at the end. We'll place one on the end of course, we'll place one here and then connect it up like so, and you'll see we'll have a little overlap on the end again. And then we want to do the same thing on this side of course, so we'll have one right there, then we'll have an overlap right here and right there, so it doesn't go into the wall. That is very important. And we have the nice connection like so. Unfortunately, we do have a little bit of the weird overlap going on right here, but there's nothing really we can do about that with the options that we are given right now. It would have been great if we had like a corner piece for this slope as well, so that we could do it a little bit more nicely. But this is the shape that we want, and of course we'll do the same thing on the other side and then repeat it on the back side of the building as well. Okay, so now we should have something like this on both sides, and now we want to add in a little bit of detailing on the inside as well. We want to have beams going across, but skip everywhere where we have like the double door, because we're going to actually use those as doors as well. So we'll just go along the entire edge of the build just to add in that extra bit of detail, a little bit more support, nice little edge as well if you're looking from the outside, especially if the terrain is a little bit more uneven. You'll see it a little bit better of course than if you have a very flat and very low build. But yeah, it's just a little way to add some extra detail. Oops, here we don't want it in the door openings because that's a little awkward if you actually want to use those doors. Okay, and then we actually want to add in some pillars as well to some of these spots just to make it look a little bit nicer. Again, we'll just place them at least in all the corners of course, just to have some extra details that we can see both on the inside and on the outside. For some reason I do not have a door here. No wall. And then we'll connect this up like so. We'll have some beams going across, and then we'll have some more pillars going up, and then probably we also want to add some pillar next to these as well, just as a little extra amount of detail that we can have instead of having these very big bland walls going on, which is always a little bit boring. So it's a very easy way to add in some of these extra details. We'll do the same right here. There we go. We'll do it here as well. So basically we go around and placing these pillars next to all the windows so that we have a little bit more detail going on. And then we'll do one here as well next to this big window, just to give this big wall a little bit more shape than it has. Oh, not right there. Than it has right now. There we go. So we should end up with something like this, where we basically have the pillars everywhere next to every door and window. And we'll have some beams across the bottom and in these front bits that we have built. And now you should also be able to just remove these corner pieces without anything else going away. So we can clear them out so it doesn't look too weird on the inside that we have those random floating corner pieces. They were just to help us with the snap points. Okay, and now we want to add another layer of ramps going across here to add a nice little border to the roof. But in order to get the right snap point, we'll have to do a little bit of overlapping by placing a quarter wall right here. Because now we can place the ramp right here so that it overlaps on this corner, and then we can continue it all the way across to the other side, well, where the same will happen. And this is just a nice way to add a little bit more detail on the front and still have a little bit of a corner going on. Unfortunately, we do have a little bit of an overlap, but I found that was the nicest way. If you don't want this, or if you're unofficial and you're trying to somehow replicate the build, you'll have, of course, trouble with all the other overlapping, but you could also just have it end right here with a normal roof. But I found this to look a little bit nicer. And then we can actually remove this quarter wall afterwards. So we just need it for the snap point. And again, we'll do the same thing on the other side as well. Okay, now it's time to start on the second layer in our Japanese castle. And to do that, we need to line it up the right way. So right now, we have this middle. We don't want that as a middle. So we'll place a quarter ceiling first. And then we actually place a normal ceiling next to it. But then we can remove the quarter ceiling because we just needed the right snap point. And now we can make our little foundation. So this right here is the middle, and it's gonna be a 4 wide one so that we cross the entire section. And then it's gonna be 7 long. So 3 ceilings on both sides. And that is gonna be the shape that we want to fill in for this layer of the building. Because that is going to be our next layer, which I have used as my like sleeping quarters, but it's just the next room, the next floor of this building. So you want to have the 7 by 4 ceiling. Okay, and then we're going to make 2 little additions. We're going to have a little bit sticking out here, 3 wide, and we're going to do the same on the other side as well, so that we have this type of shape. And then, of course, once again, we need to make the walls happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a door opening here, which we're going to use as windows again, of course. And then we're going to have 2 right here as well, 2 high. And again, of course, you want to repeat that on both sides. And then we can start filling in some of the rest of this shape as well. You want to have everything 2 high, of course. So we'll just fill in the rest of this shape like this. Also right here, we'll leave the middle part open right there. And then, of course, on this side, we just repeat what we've done over here. And then right here, we want to have these sloped walls like so to connect up the shape on the sides, because we're going to have the internal stairs linking up like that. And then here we can start making the shape for the roof. Here we do want to have some windows to let in some light. And then we can finish off the rest of the roof shape, and of course repeat the same thing on the other side. There we go. So we should have something like this, and then we're gonna work on the shape of the roof on this side. And once again, this is where we're gonna have some of the overlapping happening, because right here we're gonna have some quarter walls slipping in right there, so we have a little of an overlap, and then we'll have the slope walls starting up like this. Then make sure you use the right variation of the quarter wall so that it fits with the slope walls, in this case the second variation. And then we can fill in the middle bit as well, and we'll have more sloped walls on top so that we have this shape right here. And of course we'll repeat that on the other side as well. Okay, and then we of course want to make sure that this doesn't float, so we'll have some sloped walls on the side to connect it up to the roof. Then we'll have some quarter walls right down here, the other variation on top of it. And then we can connect these slope walls again to make it fit in nicely within the rest of the roof, and of course repeat that on the other side as well. And then of course we can start adding in some detail by going across all of this bottom with some stone beams, making sure it all looks nice. Actually, we don't want to place anything here in the middle. We'll work on that when we do the interior bit, and we'll just go across everywhere with those beams for the extra little details. There we go. And of course we can have some pillars here in the corner, having them go all the way up. And we'll also have some pillars right there, and we can also make those go all the way up as well, so like this. And then of course some pillars here, there as well, just to add in a little bit of extra detail to this. And of course we'll do that on both sides. And right here on the inside we only do one pillar right here. Then we want to take out our quarter ceilings and fill this little bit in right there on the other side as well. And of course we'll repeat that for the other side of the roof again. And like we did before, we also want to add in some quarter ceilings here on the corners of this roof, so that we can have the right snapping points again. Okay, before we start on the roof of this layer, now we can finally start finishing this layer of the roof, because we can finally line it up nicely. And what we want to do, of course, we want to line up the roof right here and then make it go in like so that we don't have any overlap on the inside of our new building. So just like so, and of course we'll do that on both sides. Okay, so finally the first layer of our roof is almost done, except for the details, but we'll do those all at the end for the entirety of the roof. Now we can start on the second layer of the roof, and again we want to just get the right snap points right here on the end of the roof for the little overhang on the outside, which I always prefer with my roofs to add a little bit more detail. And we'll do the same here as well, actually, because you want to have the same little overlap here as well. And then we want to make sure that for the second layer of the roof we don't overlap to the inside, so we get this snapping point right there so that it fits nicely without having the overlap to the inside of the building. Okay, then the most complicated part of the roof is of course making these two connect up. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we get the right snap point. So we'll place these roofs right here, because now we can make a nice corner going into the other roof that lines up nicely, which is exactly what we want, of course. But then we still have the problem of the next layer here, which unfortunately isn't one that we can solve perfectly. But for now, we'll just place the roofs like this, so normal roofs again. We can connect these up as well. And then we're going to wait a little bit before we place the next layer of the roof, because again, we're going to have another floor on top of here. So for now, we'll keep it to this kind of shape. But what we will do, of course, is add in our ramps as well for the little curve in the roof that we had before as well. The ramps are actually quite easy. We'll connect the first one like this so that we don't overlap with the inside of the building. And of course, we'll connect it like this with the end, and then we'll have a little overlap again here. And for the other side, we'll do the same right here. So we make sure that we don't overlap to the inside, and then we connect it up with the rest of the roof. And of course, we're going to do the same on the other side, but as well on the back of the roof as well. We're going to repeat this whole roof design again. Okay, now we need the last layer of ceilings that we're going to need for the last floor of our building, but we need to line it up right first, because we need to be able to place a full ceiling, lining it up with the middle of this roof that we have right here. But as you can see, this won't fully line up. So we're going to use our same little trick again by placing a quarter ceiling first, and then we should be able to line up a full ceiling with the middle of the roof. And then we're going to have it go out like this. So 2 on this side, we'll have 2 on that side as well, as soon as we remove the last one, and we'll fill this in. So basically it's going to be a 4 by 2 ceiling that we have here. Then we can remove this little quarter ceiling so we can fill in all of this. And then actually you want to think about where you want to place in the entrance to this whole place. One of these, you probably want to make a hatch frame so you can have a ladder going down so you can actually reach this. I, in my build, use this as a little aviary where you can park your flyer and then you fly out again and you can go into the building by this little hatch frame. Now, during the building, I already said we can't really line this up very nicely without it looking ugly on the inside. So what we want to do right here is we want to actually line up the corner pieces with the end of the roof right here on both sides. This will unfortunately overlap a little bit into our next floor, but it's the only way that I've found to be able to do this without, you know, making it worse on the inside. And then the rest of this layer is actually going to be quite simple. We're going to start out with some normal walls on the ends, both sides. Then we'll switch to the little windows so that we can have some extra light coming in from the sides as well. Not that we really need it here, but that's just what we're going to do. And then we're going to end it off with making a little shape for the roof for this last layer. So that's what we're going to do right there. And then we actually want to add in some pillars here on the corners of this whole thing. And again, we'll probably want to also make sure that we have some of these beams going across for the extra little bit of detail. And then we want to have a pillar right there in the middle as well. So it's a little less weird that we have these little bits sticking in. And then of course we want to finish off this last layer of the roof. We can fill in these because they actually line up nicely with the structure that we've just built. So it all fits inside. But we actually also want to have a little extra layer right here with the ramps going across again. But again, you could place them like this, but I prefer them to have the little overlapping corners. So in order to do that, we'll need a different snap point. So we'll place a little quarter wall right there. Now, sometimes this works perfectly, sometimes it doesn't because there's a whole wall in there. So what you can do temporarily, you can remove the normal wall so we can get the snap point a little bit easier. We can place these ramps going across all the way. Then we can go back in again, remove the little quarter wall. Nothing should change. And then we can fill in this wall like normal again. And as I've said many times, we'll do the same thing on the other side as well. And then actually these little ceilings that we placed on the inside to line up the roofs, we can now remove those again as well. And then for this last layer, we of course want to fill in the corners again to get the different snap points. Okay, in order to finish this last layer of the building, we'll place down some temporary walls like so. So we get this sloped wall in place. And then with the help of this ceiling that we placed before, we can actually line it up so that we can place this one as well. We'll get this one in here right there. And then we can remove these walls so that we can line it up with the other piece that we have right there. And then of course we want to do the same thing on the other side as well. And there we go. We should have something like this. Now we want to finish the last bit of the roof. What we want to do is take this little ceiling, have a ramp, and then cycle through these snapping points until we get this one. So we can have the little guide going across like so. And of course, we want to do the same thing on the other side as well, so that we have these little ramps going across on both sides. Then we want to take out the normal stone roof, place it like so with the snap points that we created from these ceilings. And of course, we'll do that on both sides, just filling it all in like this. And then we'll switch to the ramps, and we'll have the ramps going across like this as well. And that should finish off the bases of the roof for this layer. So now the entire building should look something like this. But now it's time to add in some more details to the roof. First off, we want to end all these roofs with these sloped stone walls. I would make sure to face them all the same way. Just makes more sense in my mind. And I would also recommend in the end to paint at least the roof, just because then the texture of these sloped walls especially will blend in a little bit nicer, because obviously on one side it has some wood on it and it doesn't have that on the other side. So we'll start with that, adding those on all the ends of all the roofs like this. That already changes it quite a bit. Of course, do that on all sides, on both sides, so that it's the same everywhere. That's the first layer of detailing for the roof done. Then we actually want to grab these stone railings and we want to be placing them on top as an extra little bit of detail. Right, so make sure that you don't overlap anything to the inside. So we want to do those on top of all these pieces like this, just as an extra little bit of detail. I like the black part of the railing to be on top, because that's in a different color. But of course, you can do whatever you prefer. And we'll do this everywhere that we can. So basically just go around the entire roof and adding these details on top of the back of all of these. And this can be quite a hassle. So yeah, we'll do that everywhere. It's the same process everywhere. Sometimes you just need to make sure that you don't overlap. We'll also be adding them on the bottom of these ramps. There we do want to have the black thing on the outside again. And we want to make sure with the overlapping that it does make sense. So that's the only thing you need to look out for. That it all connects up nicely and we don't overlap into the inside of the building. But this is what we want to add as well. So on the edges of these ramps that we've placed everywhere, we want to also add in a nice black border or a railing border, because it just adds a little bit more detail. And then one more thing that we want to do is have them on the edge of this as well. Of course, if you don't like it or you didn't think it's a little bit too much, you can pick and choose which one of these you do like and add those and don't add the rest. One thing you want to do for at least these parts is make sure that here you only add them at the end like this, and you don't actually have them on top. So the on top part is only on the sides of the roofs like here. And then this is basically what we were going to do everywhere. But to save you all some time, I'm not going to show you me placing these everywhere. So you can just go around the roof and place these details all along it. Okay, and after a whole while of placing down some stone railings, you should have something looking like this. Now, I personally really like the way this looks, but as I said, I would recommend painting the roofs at least. I've painted mine in the marine color. I really like that look, but of course, feel free to play around with some colors that you like and see what looks the best in your eyes. Even though we've already placed a whole bunch of pillars, we kind of want to place some more right here. We want to have the stone on top this time, just as a little barrier that you don't just walk out of this room when you're up here and you're landing your flyer. And as well, we can now also get rid of these little helpers that we placed before, because we don't need them to be there anymore. And it just makes it a little bit nicer and cleaner on the inside here. Speaking of the inside, I think it's about time that we start on the inside. First of all, we'll add in some doors to all of these double doors that we've placed down here, because those are going to be our actual doors. So that's what we'll do right now. And then we also want to start working on our staircases. We'll remove 2 of these right here. And we'll do those on both sides. Now I did get rid of some of these pillars, so I'm just going to place those back because we want to definitely keep those. And we'll place some beams right here just so that it makes a little bit more sense. Okay, now what we want to do is basically make a staircase down to the bottom floor, and we'll do that like so. We'll have a stair going down like here, and then we'll make a nice little platform right there. Okay, and then we'll connect another stair down like so on both sides. So it's going to be quite a grand staircase. And then we want to actually take the corner pieces of the staircases and have them go in like this. Now, of course, you could always have a different staircase if you like that, but I just think a big room like this warrants a big staircase. And actually, I would do them on both sides. But again, if you don't want them on both sides to save some space, you can also just do them on one side, of course. But yeah, I just think it's kind of nice to have that symmetry going along on the inside. Then we're going to place some guidelines like this, because we want to have some pillars doing some supporting over here. We'll place them down like this. Then we'll place a normal pillar first. Normal pillars here as well. And then we'll line them up with these, so they line up quite nicely with a half pillar basically. And then we can get rid of these half walls, because we definitely do not want to keep those. But it just gives the staircase a little bit of extra detail. And now we can also easily switch these to railings and have some railings along the side. And you can decide for yourself if you only want them on the top of it. I kind of like to have them like this. Looks a little bit more supported. And of course, we'll do the same thing here for this part of this stair going up, just so that you don't fall down all the time. And it looks a little bit more supported because it is quite a big staircase after all. So we'll do that on both sides. And there we go. There we have a nice little staircase going up to the second layer. And as I said before, we kind of want to add in a ladder right here. Now, I kind of like the look of these rope ladders, so I usually pick them. And you can pick whether you want it all the way to the bottom, or you maybe want to have it like one higher, because you can still easily reach this, but it is not in the way when you're walking around here. So I would personally go for this one, just because then you can use all the space on this floor without having the ladder sticking out all the time. Now, another thing is, of course, you might want to add in some more details for these windows. One thing you can do is just have some greenhouse doors inside of them. That will look fine. But you can also do something with railings. I would at least have some at the bottom, so you know that these are not doors. But you can also do it a little bit more fancy. Instead of having them just at the bottom or whatever, we can make a kind of pattern going along. Now, I won't be doing this for all of the things. So if I have a material list, this will probably be the part that isn't completely accurate, just because it would take a long time to do this. But you want to have these go diagonal and then just fill them in like this. You want to make sure you don't overlap too high, because then you will be seeing them on the outside. So what you do, you try to find a snap point in these pillars that you like, and then you just basically go all the way up. And that works pretty much the same for all of these. But as I said, you want to be careful with the top one, that it doesn't overlap too much with the outside, because then you'll have all these things poking through the roofs. But it does look very nice, and I think it fits this style very nicely. But it does take a long time to do for every one of these, so I won't be doing that for this tutorial building. But I just wanted to show you the technique in case you're interested. But as I said, you can also just use the greenhouse doors inside of these to create some nice looking windows, and then maybe having either the wooden railing or the stone railing at the bottom. There's a few more details that you want to add to finish off this whole build. Of course, we have this little door on the side. So what we want to do is basically create a little balcony or porch I would use the stone because we use that as well for most of this anyway. And then we can have this little extension that you can use to have some crafting stations, or I don't know, maybe keep some dinos there, whatever you need. So I would go around with pillars like this, then go and have a little half pillar here. That looks a little bit nicer, of course. And then, of course, finish it with these railings going across. And then you have a nice little porch. I would repeat the same on the other side. Actually, what you also want to do probably is extend the pillars all the way across the bottom for everywhere you can see them on the outside. So then we should have something looking like this. 2 little porches on the side where you can just, you know, have some crafting, some storage, some dinos, whatever you need. And then we'll also extend this front bit a little bit. Depending on your terrain, of course, you can use foundations. In this case, it doesn't quite fit all the way, but we're just going to pretend that it does. And then what I would do is have some stairs going down like this on both sides as a way to, you know, kind of access the front door of your base. Then I would have some sloped walls here on the side to make it look a little bit nicer. And then, of course, we'll have some pillars going like this, and we'll create the half pillars here as well. And then, of course, we can finish this with a nice row of railing. Of course, we're going to ignore this. We're going to just pretend that it is all the way flush. But if this happens to you, you can always use ceilings. Okay, so that's the front of the building pretty much done. Let's look at the back. Now, at the back of the building, you've got a couple of options, of course. You can do the exact same thing that we did on the front, but you can also do something a little bit differently. I'm not going to do like an exact tutorial because I'm going to let you decide for yourself what kind of porch you want in the back. If you want to do the same thing, just repeat whatever we did on the front, but you can also do a little wooden porch on the back. And just as a little inspiration, this is what I did on my build at the back. So I have just like a normal row of wooden ceilings and then the quarter ceilings to have this nice little shape at the back. And then this is where it gets a little bit funky because I have done some overlapping. But basically I've done a wooden porch or kind of like connected porch all around the back of the building, just so that we have a little bit of difference. And in my case, it's actually because it connects up to like a safe garden area that is completely walled off, so nothing should be getting in here without my say so. And this would be a great place to keep some dinos. Now, that is pretty much the entire build that you have to do to get your own Japanese castle looking like this. And then, of course, you can do a lot with painting. I've mentioned it a couple of times, but I would at least suggest painting the roofs. That at least these end pieces, the wooden beams that you see right there, aren't as noticeable. As you can see right here, I think this is a little bit better than having them stand out so much. Okay, now that we finished our Japanese castle, let's do a little tour of the one that I built right here. You can see, because of the terrain, this is a little bit higher here. You probably have to use ceilings and some walls to cover up the front in that case, but it does look very nice. And we've got a huge base inside. Pretty much everything that you need will be able to fit. So I placed the grill right here at the front. I actually made like an interior garden here in the middle if I want to grow some plants. We got some vaults, some fridges, some cooking stuff, everything that I need basically. Even the industrial forge will easily fit inside as well. Got a fabricator and some more vaults on there. But of course, probably you want to place down some more storage just to have everything. But you can see that quite easily you can fit in all the crafting systems that you need. And it won't feel crowded at all because there's so much space still left. And then, of course, we got the next area to go to, but this is an example of what I've did with these little porches on the side. Of course, probably you don't really need these forges because we got a giant industrial forge there. So maybe instead you would have some extra storage here, or maybe you will replace the plants with some extra storage if you really want it. And then if we go upstairs, we'll see the next little layer. These are the nice little bedrooms, as you can see. Got now a lovely little hard bed, but normal beds are fine as well, of course. And some extra storage. You could even replace these with some vaults if you really need it, but probably you want to keep all the important materials downstairs close to your crafting. I've got the generator right here, so it powers the entire castle. And I've got a little table here to, you know, discuss with the tribe, and a little fireplace in the corner. And then we have the place to go up right here, so we can easily access all flyers, put a feeding trough down, some lamps so that you can always see this, and you can easily fly out whenever you need to. If you're wondering about the colors, as I've said, the roof is made from the marine color. Then I've got the accents on the railings. I've got that in black. So that's a combination of black and marine, doing the right zones. So it matches up with the stone, with the marine color, and then the black just to stand out a little bit more. And then all the wooden pieces have the scab color, and again with the black accents for the beams, and the pillars are fully black as well. And I think that looks pretty nice indeed. But as I've said, feel free to play around with the colors. Now, I think that was pretty much it for this build tutorial of the Japanese castle. I hope you enjoyed, and if you do end up building this in your own world, feel free to share your screenshot with me on Twitter or join my Discord and show it over there. Thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more ARK build tutorials, and consider becoming a member if you want to see more of these tutorials more often, because that helps support me a whole lot.